Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Thursday. Welcome to Hope and the Truth. I'm Lance Parvin. With me today, James Berg, the owner of DXG Self-Defense. As always, we are here to strengthen our faith in the Lord and renew hope in the community. James, thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you very much for having me on the show.
We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. Let's talk about DXG Gym. You're one of the owners of this gym, correct?
I am. I'm one of four owners, actually. It's a family-oriented business, and it's owned by the family Sean Hackett, Niall Linder, and their parents, and I own the gym. And these boys have been practicing martial arts their whole life. They have been studying since they were just little kids, and this is a lifelong dream for them. So it's nice to see that coming to fruition finally. Yeah.
Now, what makes DXG different, the gym itself? I mean, there's a lot of martial arts school, not just the art itself, but
Well, one of the things that happens in martial arts, everyone just does a generalization with mixed martial arts when they're talking about mixed martial arts. When you get into very specific lineages, then you have these outstanding lineages that are incredible. They really stand out, and they're very fine. Some of them are very fine, and we have a couple of very fine lineages that we are in, that I am in. I have practiced in the lineage of Grandmaster Ed Goko Galam, and he is a practitioner of Jeet Kune Do, which is the lineage of Great Grandmaster Bruce Lee. He is also a teacher of Wing Chun, which is a very fine lineage as well. That goes back a long ways, and he's a Filipino martial arts practitioner. The double sticks and the single sticks. Balintawak. So we have a lot to offer in those areas. On top of that, we have some very great programs in Jiu Jitsu. Niall Linder is our Jiu Jitsu coach in-house, and he is in Neil Lanson's lineage, which is a really strong lineage. It was here in town for a long time, and now he is with the Black Zillions. Mr. Melanson is, and Niall is very proud of that lineage, and it shows, and a lot of people really enjoy training with him. We have sport kickboxing in the gym, and we do a lot of cardio in the gym. We have an incredible kids program now. We have Mary Ushok karate in the gym, and her husband Teddy Concepcion is a wrestling coach. So we have a little bit of everything, and we specialize in the three very strong lineages of Jeet Kune Do, Wing Chun, and Filipino stick fighting. So it's a very exciting place to train because you can get into all of those lineages.
And that's a beautiful thing. People sometimes, you've probably heard this question, I have. What's the best art? And it's not a necessary thing of having the best art. I think being more dynamic and when people have access to see the arts, it's more or less what you're attracted to. But understanding weapons, empty hand, and ground is important. People say, well, I'm just going to do this. It's like, well, what happens when you're on the ground? You don't always get to pick the fight. So it might not be favorite, but at least you're a little more dynamic and understanding of the environment.
Absolutely. And Jeet Kune Do is the way of the intercepting fist, okay? But when we teach Jeet Kune Do, one of the main things that we teach is exactly what you just described. Never in your life, and of course this is outside the cage, and God forbid that we ever have to use any violence for anything, but it's never going to be how you think it's going to be. There's never a set cut or a set circumstance, or, my opponent should be this big. It's never like that.
It's not a movie set.
Yeah, it's not.
Surprisingly.
Yeah, and preparing someone for dealing with any circumstance like that is very exciting for me as a teacher. I'm an assistant teacher over there to Sifu Sean Hackett, and I was teaching that to a young lady last night. She's 4'11", and I said to her, your Jeet Kune Do is very different than everyone else's. You would have to be much closer because your limbs are shorter and you're very petite. So that comes up a lot, and it's great to have the clarity and understanding of that, what that is.
And I think it's a beautiful thing that people always say you have to learn something this way. We're all built differently. So actually be able to specialize, and this is something a lot of schools don't do, is they'll kind of do a one-size-fits-all. And they're like, you have to learn it this way, but you're 6'11", I'm 5'7". We don't move the same way. So there has to be ways to kind of address this. Even mobility issues, because not everyone moves the same way, has access to missing limbs. And these are things that have to be addressed sometimes, where I've heard people say, well, I do a kicking art. Well, this person's in a wheelchair. How are they going to defend themselves? And it kind of throws them off. I think you should be able to make it fit the person. Without taking away from the art and saying, well, that's not going to work. Everyone, should be entitled to be able to, so not go out and look for bar fights and stuff like this, but there's an inner confidence, and it's funny because movement is interrelated, and it's always interesting. Someone can look at, let's say, a form. One person sees dance, another person sees martial arts. It becomes very subjective. It's all movement related. And that leads me to the next question. What started you on your martial arts quest yourself, personally? Because everyone always has a different reason.
Well, I never sought out a school, and I never sought out a discipline. I think that I always idolized Great Grandmaster Bruce Lee from his films and from those pictures that show him to be this Adonis of martial arts, of course. But when I first got involved with martial arts, it came to me, and I couldn't avoid it. And I knew that it was something that was going to affect me in all areas of my life for a long time. I began practicing with a Sifu named Scott Jones. Sifu Scott Jones was a practitioner of Kung Tao, which is basic Filipino Kung Fu, And I loved the art, and I immediately knew how serious it was by some of the devastation in the wrist locks and the movements. And I knew that not just anybody can learn this martial art. It's not something to just be thrown around, just loosely. And that got me going. That's 25 years ago, almost 30 years ago now. So once that happened, then anytime I saw the names of the lineages that I had been introduced to, I immediately wanted to investigate and look a little more and see who was teaching. And that led me to Grandmaster Ed Galan. And I couldn't be more proud than to be in his lineage and to better understand Filipino martial arts through him. So
it's good to have that diversity, because that's one thing where there's less stuff when people do it. With self-defense, you learn it works or it doesn't work when you're in that situation. This is the problem where we've seen some of the stuff that we've done where there's a lot of people are taught something and it's like, what do you teach the person? The person goes out there, gets in front of you. What did I just learn? Like, this is not the way they said it was going to be. It's like, that's why when we work with victims of domestic violence and things like this, when working with someone who's been a victim, they'll see very quickly, like, that's not going to work. They'll tell you from experience, and I think to be able to actually, apply stuff and make it realistic, because people, I think, have preconceived notions, normally from TV and movies. And when you go out there and you do it, you go, oh, it's very eye-opening. And I think a lot of people assume that martial arts makes someone violent. I think the exact opposite. I think
absolutely.
I
agree.
It shows you the devastation that you can do. You're less likely to use it. The way that it's always been explained to me, an analogy, it's like you're walking around with a gun. Mm-hmm. And someone calls you, you're not going to go out and just start shooting people, because you're like, you can avoid confrontations. Stop being about ego as much.
Absolutely, and I have been in that situation many times, and higher level disciples, practitioners of the art, all agree, and we've laughed quite a few times with each other. Those tests are put in front of you. Someone who is inebriated, someone who is, doesn't really, they're maybe a little bit ignorant, maybe they just, you got to have the patience. It's a lesson in society. I don't need to get involved with this person. I'm going to sidestep this. Oh, they called me names. This person has no idea what would happen to him if we really went down that path, and I'm going to take that out of the equation. We don't even need to go there. That's not going to happen.
And I think that's important. I think a lot of people, and this is a question I've been asked, because they see your faith and they go, wait a minute, you have this strong faith. How can you reconcile the fact that you're teaching or learning something that can be very devastating? How do you reconcile that with your faith? When someone say, well, wait a minute, if you're teaching people, martial arts in a way, and not just people look at something and I guess they would say, well, it's, and I go, they look at more like street fighting. I think self-defense and learning, let's say, a form, they can fit together. But most people, when they come, they say, well, what do you want to learn? I want to learn how to defend myself, not get hurt. Which some people, they're going for certain reasons. But how do you reconcile that to an individual that would ask you, how can you say you're following your spiritual and you're teaching violence?
Well, that's a very that is a question that comes up a lot. First and foremost, I have to address the fact not everyone gets to learn certain levels of martial arts. The backup statement to that is, let's look at it in a different way. Perhaps the person that is given that information is doing the work of the Lord by being in a situation that only that person has been trained to handle. There's no mistakes as far as I'm concerned. there's no coincidences. Everything is preordained, and I choose to see things that way all through my life, and I teach that to my students as well. I also teach, one of the things that happens in class on a regular basis is you have to feel the pain of the techniques in order to execute them on another person and to understand it, to understand wrist locks, to understand certain things, and that really shatters the ego and a lot of these things that would take you into situations where you would possibly be violent, and you couldn't sidestep it then. But you learn that in class, you learn that in your practice, and these disciplines are really helpful to humanity for that very reason. It's all. When you look at the techniques, a lot of the techniques, you say, oh, that's devastation, that's destruction. Yes, it is. That would only be used if your life was in danger or you had to defend your family. God would want you to defend your family.
And by
Christ would want you to defend your
yeah.
family.
And the application, you're taking it out of theoretical. We've all seen stuff where you're seeing something and you're like, where's the application? And that's another good thing of actually hands-on, because firsthand, you're like, well, that's the theory. We've seen it firsthand work. And I think the other thing of understanding levels of force, which a lot of people are like, why would I have to learn that? Is because when you understand escalation and de-escalation, you're less likely to go, and we've done seminars and stuff where people go from a verbal confrontation to deadly force, and I go, whoa, where was the buffer zone in between there? I mean, a lot of it's just because I think a lack of training.
That's right.
And confidence issues, to where people go, you see, compliant force, destructive force, deadly force, and you can see a thing, and it's like, that's how situations change.
Exactly. In sparring, one of the most powerful lessons that I've ever learned in martial arts is dealing with different level students in the sparring circle. So I would be the centerpiece sparring partner. I would go through the ranks. 5 or 6 would come at me. 3 of them are black belts or above. 2 of them are black belt or below. The intensity that I use with the black belts who have trained for many years can be clicked up about 6 notches, because they can take it, and they need that to challenge them so that they can grow. The people that are not, you have to be light-handed. You have to just tap, just give them an idea, and being able to do that, and differentiate that, and not having this extreme that you talked about, having this in between space where you have all these fluctuations and these sensitivities is really that's an imperative in practice. And that plays right into our practice as Christians. That plays right into our practice as being part of the human race, and tolerance and respecting people's space, and there's a lot of lessons in that. If we have the capacity to be honest, and we can grow a lot,
Of course.
really quick.
A lot of lessons that I've learned very quickly. And now, aside from the self-defense aspect of stuff, biomechanically, what are some of the benefits that you've seen from, obviously multiple arts, but a lot of the stuff that the school offers, helping someone's fitness level? Because some people are, going like, oh, I just wanted to defend myself. And they start realizing, flexibility, mobility, they're moving better. So what have you seen firsthand in your teaching students that might not have been their first reason for coming in was conditioning, but it becomes part of it?
Absolutely.
As they're training.
Well, feeling good and looking good are a great part of life.
Yeah.
And once you get bit by the bug, you want more of it. And I've seen people come into the school that are a little bit overweight and having a problem with that. And when they come in and they do the cardio and they go through the motions, they begin to see their body changing. And there's an awakening that happens with them. And you get that fire that's there. And just a little bit at a time, you see them change. You see them be more fulfilled in their life and about who they are. And that's a really wonderful thing. And they keep coming back for that. They keep coming back, and they see that also that, taking that weight off of yourself, it takes stress off of your joints, takes stress off of your mechanics of your body. And you're able to do things that you probably weren't able to do before. Yeah.
And that leads into another thing, that what, as an instructor, this is great because people have different stories, was your most fulfilling goal when you see a student? Like, let's say, everyone always has a student that age. People always think, oh, this person got to this level. But you as a teacher, what is kind of touched your heart when you've trained maybe an individual or a group that's really...
Well, it's funny you asked that, because just the other night I had an old student from 9 years ago look me up, friend me on Facebook. He's in the Navy now. He says, I hear you have a school now. Sibak, I hear you have a school. Can I come and see you? Sure, of course. And he came down, and this is a guy that's stationed on the East Coast of the United States, has not practiced in 3 years, comes down to the school and proceeds to show me that he's maintained his practice, he's carrying the torch, and I know that he is spreading that everywhere he goes. And he's carrying the torch. He's holding it up the practice and making it a reality in his life on a daily basis. And he's an outstanding individual. And look what he's done in his life. I mean, this guy is he's getting up there in the Navy, and he's got a very important job. And I mean, a lot of people's lives depend on it. I mean, that's a big deal. I'm very proud of him.
That's a beautiful thing, because not often...
Very proud of you, Dylan.
Right. When you sow a seed and you actually get to see it grow. Sometimes we see it, we don't realize, the effect that we've had, but in a case, sometimes you're shown.
Well, I know that his practice and his discipline to practice helped shape him and take him to where he is now. All roads lead to where you are, especially if you are in the discipline and you are disciplined about it. And it's really going to take you to a different place in your life, a much higher place than you would have been.
That's right.
Yeah.
How can people get a hold of you? How can they get a hold of you, and how can they find DXG?
Well, the school is located at 4490 North Rancho at Craig Road. That's 2 doors east of Kmart on the northeast corner. And the phone number over there.
Do you have the website?
DXG Las Vegas.
We'll put the link up. You don't have to write that down as you say, like, hold on, I don't have a pen right away.
I did. The phone number over there is 702-695-4082. And we're there most of the time. So Monday through Sunday, we're practicing over there. So
you can stop by. I probably suggest calling them first, because you go at the one time they're taking lunch or something.
Yeah, of course.
We'll put the website up. Where are they at? They said we're here all the time. Yeah. If you don't mind sticking with me, we're going to be right back with the news you might not have heard about. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to Hope and the Truth, and to one of my favorite sections, the news you may not have heard about. With me still, James Berg from DXG Self-Defense Studio. I've got an interesting story today. Most of the time I do not tell the guests of what we're going to talk about. It's some kind of wackiness that I've pulled off the front pages of some paper you've never heard about. But, I'm a lot of fun at barbecue. So today, the topic we're going to discuss is kind of going to go into something else. I call it fluoridating the mind. Now, a lot of people are unaware of what fluoride is, what it does, why is it in our water supply. I'm going to go some simple facts about fluoride. Here's a few quick facts. 97% of Western Europe has rejected water fluoridation. Many children now exceed the recommended daily fluoride intake for toothpaste alone. So by itself, just taking that toothpaste, and by the way, what's actually shown on commercials and what's recommended are two different things. It's actually a pea-sized amount in a commercial, and this is the whole toothbrush, but we'll come back to that in a second. Fluoride's not a nutrient. I don't know if you've heard that before. It's not. 50 studies, and this is the thing that people are interested in. People say, well, none of this is proven. I disagree. I found 50 international studies had linking fluoride to IQ and children. I'm just going to pull out a bit. I'm not going to go through all 50. I'll be here all day. One is the Khan study. This was done on 6 to 12-year-olds in India. 429 school children. So it wasn't a small study. It was a fairly large study. This showed that high fluoride intake, the majority of children had a lower IQ. And they compared this across the board to people that were in low fluoride areas versus a high fluoride area, and they actually divided up the class. That's how they were able to compare this. Second study, the choice study. This was with 7-year-olds. This was in China. This was only 51 children with elevated fluoride areas. So what they did is they divided up part of China. They saw aspects of where there was high fluoride intake with low fluoride intake, and looked at IQ scores. Pretty disturbing. It showed a severe or moderate, number one, dental fluorosis. See, this is a fun fact I don't think many people know. That increased amounts of fluoride actually causes dental fluorosis. What's that you say? It hurts your teeth. Imagine that. That's just weird. The other thing was a deficit in working memory. So in this study, they actually found they ranged IQ from a 1 to a 5, 1 being superior, 5 being below average, downward. They found that no one, not one child in the high fluoride area was anywhere near a 1. In fact, they didn't get over a 3. Compared to the children that were in the low fluoride area, you had a few 1s and 2s. And I will post these studies online so you can look them up in your leisure. Another one, and this is why we're getting into fluoride today, the real true meaning of this. Pineal gland calcification is caused by constant exposure to substances like fluoride, food additives, excess sugar sweeteners, mercury. Excessive calcium from processed foods can cause calcium phosphate to build up. I know some of you are thinking right now, wait a minute, I take a calcium supplement. Yeah, you better check the back of that. That's the key thing, is with certain things, this is the true purpose of fluoride, what I believe. Fluoride was actually first used, many people aren't aware of this, in Auschwitz. They actually fluoridated the water. When the prisoners were like, why would they care about their teeth? They didn't. That's the interesting thing. The main reason why they were actually putting fluoride in the water was to pacify the actual prisoners there, which kind of makes you think, well, wait a minute, why is our water fluoridated? And all these other countries are banning it. And I invite you to look up what actually is fluoride, the 2 chemical components that actually make it up. If you were to separate this component, dump one of them into the river supply, you'd be arrested as a domestic terrorist, one by itself. So, here's some pineal gland facts. It helps with your pituitary gland. That's going to come into play later on. It helps control the release of melatonin, serotonin, dopamine. You might be familiar with those 3 receptors that get activated. Why is that? Because those are also the 3 top drugs that pharmaceutical firms recommend. Antidepressants, painkillers, and sleep aids. That must be a coincidence. What else? It's referred to as your third eye. All right? I believe it's where your soul resides. That shocks a lot of people. They go, well, why would my soul reside there? Well, if you do a little bit of research, it won't take very long, you'll be able to tell me why most religions around the world, including the Vatican, has the pineal gland, which is a pine cone, that's what it resembles, on the stick. I'd be walking around with a pineal gland. That just seems strange to me. Now, before you say this is far-fetched, I invite you to research of why so many different religions are focusing, and many people have heard about the third eye and the pineal gland's importance, not just with, obviously, neurotransmitter release, but also your ability to communicate with God. And this is a key thing when it starts to go deeper. Well, why would that become calcified? The interesting thing is this. Over the years, the pineal gland used to be calcified at around the year 17 years of age. Where is it at now? 2. So the average age in where your pineal gland becomes calcified is 2 years old. Kind of seems like an agenda to me. I found this interesting. I've been studying calcification of the pineal gland for a very long time. There's many things that can actually help decalcify this. One of them, cannabis. Interesting, because that's been banned for so long. One of the things that actually helps do is decalcify the gland. Prayer, these are other things that help you get back in touch on that path to God. But cannabis is a huge thing, which is also why most patients would tell you that the first thing they experience is improved sleep, pain-killing effects on depression. Yeah, these things kind of relate. So I'm going to turn this over to you because this is a fancy topic. What are your feelings on some of my wackiness?
Well, I don't think it's wackiness at all. I appreciate you having me on your show to discuss some controversial subjects such as this. You know, I do believe in many ways that the populace is being subjected to kind of a poisoning. And nobody really questioned fluoridation of the water or fluoride in toothpaste or any of these other things. I do know that it is outlawed in Europe. They do not want fluoride in their water. Why would they not want it in their water? Why would the country of France not want fluoride in their water? Yet here in the United States, it's in the water. There's something going on there, and there's something that has to be looked at there. That's first and foremost. As far as the pineal gland is concerned, and I don't recall ever seeing that. I'm going to look for that now. The pine cone shaped.
It's actually on the Pope's rod.
I'm
Find it on the top.
going to look at that. I'm going to look for that. And I do believe what you're saying, but I believe there is a missing link that we quite possibly could be coming up on the discovery of here. The third eye, or the intuition or the clairvoyance of people. You know, I know many people in my life that are Christians or any faiths that are that have unbelievable gifts that are not easily explained by just logic or being in this box thinking. You can't explain that, and I think that it has to do with that. The dumbing down of society is definitely something that is going on. Let's make short attention span entertainment the norm. Let's get people hooked on really bad foods that don't have any nutrients, and let's pour fluoride in the water and knock down people's ability to remember very clearly and operate at a higher level with their mind, body, spirit. I mean, I do believe that. I believe there's something going on. I don't know who to point the finger at. I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist. I don't want to sound like some kind of nut job. I do know that there's something going on. Why would Europe be so adamant about keeping it out of their water supply?
And that's the key thing, is that when people want to throw around the word conspiracy theory, I go, well, it's not a theory when you have facts, is it?
That's right.
It would be
That's
true.
that's right.
And that's the key thing. Everyone has an opinion. I'm not knocking down anyone's opinion. When you start to bring studies that are actually showing memory deficit, falling away of enamel on your teeth, and if you're being told something helps and wait a minute, it does the opposite, then you have to start questioning. When you don't, you sit there and go back to sleep. But, it starts to wake some people up, I think. It's one thing to not be informed. It's another thing to be ignorant, intentionally. When you're getting information, it's like, well, I don't want to hear all this stuff. And that's a big thing, is as more comes out, because anything in the darkness will be brought to light, people do have a choice. And, for too long, I think people have been unaware, entertained.
Yeah.
And,
where's that opinion coming from, though, with them, and who are they? It's not that, it's not that. Well, they said that about many things. They said that about Agent Orange.
Yeah.
They said that it wouldn't even harm you. There, in fact, was a man that drank it.
Yeah.
He's dead now from cancer. So, questions are always the best MO for me about things like this. I've been through too much. My family's been through too much. I come from a long military history. My father did his time in Vietnam, and the colonel taught me well. Question these things. Don't just stand there and act like everything's okay. We really should ask a lot more questions and research it. And I'm going to do that with that. I'm going to take a much closer look at fluoride because of what you brought up today.
Don't bring me to the movies with you, because I'll scare the butter right off the popcorn. All right, James, thank you for coming by the show
thank
today.
you so much for having me.
And I'm going to leave you with scripture, of course, as I always do. Psalm 107:2. That's chapter 107, verse 2. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so, whom he hath redeemed from the hand of the enemy. As you start researching stuff, you're going to find things that might frighten you. Don't be worried. The Lord didn't give us a spirit of fear. This is so you help to see what's actually going on in the world. So until next time, give your life to Jesus Christ. I'm Les Barber. We'll see you next time on Open the Truth.